Okay, so welcome to the Balearic show. And what we're going to be looking at today is three presentations from three innovators, pioneers, thinkers of the superyacht sector. And the key subject today is big data, something which is going to have a very big impact on the industry in the future. And we're going to look at the three elements that bring big data together. So during that time, we're going to look at three presentations. One is going to be related to yacht predictive maintenance, AI, machine learning, which is going to be brought to us by one of my friends, Joseph Adair. Then we'll be speaking to Matt over at E3, who's going to be talking to us a little bit more about the innovations in connectivity and how they will impact this data which is transmitted from yachts. And finally, we're going to be speaking to Jens over at Cobham. Now, Jens is a bit of a legend in the industry, and he will be talking to us finally about LEO, which I know everyone's very excited about, the impact of LEO in the future, how that's going to be rolled out, the involvement of various different companies in quite a detailed presentation. Between each of those, we'll do a couple of questions. And then at the end, we're really going to have a look at how all of this unifies to bring together a more fluid experience for the owner and a more intelligent yacht. So the first person I want to hand over to is Joseph Adair. Now, Joseph is a tech pioneer. He's owned a number of tech companies. He's worked with everyone from governments right through to now wanting to work with us in the superyacht sector. I know he has some very strong views on what we should be doing as a sector and what artificial intelligence, machine learning can do. And I do tend to agree with him. So I'm going to hand over now to Joseph, who's going to give us a detailed presentation about the impact of machine learning and artificial intelligence on the future of superyachts. Over to you, Joseph.
Good morning, everyone. I think that Jack's presentation and opening remarks were quite kind. It's true, I'm coming with extensive background in the high-tech industry, been there for more than 20 years as a technology entrepreneur, with vast experience. In the last few years, I made a shift into the whole AI space in parallel to my activity in the superyachting industry. And I found it quite astounding to realize the extent that the superyachting industry is behind the curve related to the evolution into Industry 4.0. We took initially an initiative about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, to be precise, when we started to develop the AI platform to be able to manage a very large capacity Superyacht Marine Center branded Winterhaven. And that was actually my entry into the whole AI activity in the superyachting space. We did a very substantial development in order to be able to run the site, to do all the scheduling of assets, all the billing platforms, scheduling of subcontractors, allocation of assets, IoT devices and tracking of IoT devices. And then we realized that we're developing a platform that actually will be replicated maybe up to 3 times globally, and it doesn't make any sense. And we started to develop the platform for the other end of the spectrum, i.e. the superyacht. Our vision was to get to the day that the superyacht will come to our marine center, and actually long before the superyacht will be there through the satellite, we'll be getting all the data on anything and everything that needs to be done on this superyacht without any human intervention. To kind of materialize this dream, it's a long, long way to go. And where we focused our efforts as entry level is the predictive maintenance. What I would like to do is to go quickly through a presentation. It's a part of the presentation because we are limited in time, but I'll cover a few of the core elements and then we can talk about it further. Let me share the screen with you. Hopefully everybody can see it right now.
Not up at the moment.
No? something is wrong. 1 second. Pressing your screen. It doesn't share. If it doesn't share, okay, now
there we are. It's up.
Yeah, it's up. Thank you and apologize. That's the Zoom features. Okay, so when we're looking at the whole ecosystem of the various stakeholders involved in a super yacht, we actually have three main stakeholders. It's the owners, the shipyards, and the captains, i.e. management companies. What we want to do is actually to offer each and one of them a true paradigm shift in the way that they look at the asset. From the owner perspective, we want to be able to introduce a TCO, total cost of ownership, which is a term that we can have an hour only discussing the whole TCO world. But this is something that we don't have today in the superyachting industry. We want to enhance the availability and the reliability, and obviously to improve the asset longevity. From the shipyard, at the moment, the shipyards do not have any big data to develop in-depth knowledge associated with the products that they're producing. And there must be a paradigm shift, and there must be a transformation of all shipyards into Industry 4.0, into big data, and into the infrastructure that will allow full digitization of the industry. They cannot offer extended warranties because they don't know how the future will look like. And they don't have real data depositories that they can truly mine and do deep mining in order to reach conclusions about the way that they're going to develop the product into the future. From the captain and the management company point of view, the key is obviously availability and predictability. You have a charter schedule, you need to be available for the charter. You have the owner coming, you need to be available. The last thing that you want to do is to do maintenance on something while you have the charter party or the owner on board. So the whole lack of ability to be predictable is really hurting. And very often there is a miscorrelation between the time slots and the tasks. And all the time it's kind of spinning around and trying to catch your own tail. And on the top of everything, the expectations of everybody is that this platform will be available for anyone and everyone that want to use it at any given point of time, which is not an easy target. What we want to deliver is a chain that will deliver value at the end of the day to anyone and everyone involved in the ecosystem. We want to deliver predictive maintenance. We want to deliver accurate diagnostic. We want to reduce the actual cost of ownership of super yachts. And we want to enable shipyards to go and to deliver extended warranty that will give new owners the peace of mind to step into yachting and to make the leap of faith and buy a new super yacht. Industry 4.0 and the whole digitization around it, and it's not for today to dive into the digital twins, but this whole space has been already fully implemented in so many industries, whether it's the power industry, whether it's the airline, the oil and gas, all the train, all the high-speed trains, all the high-capacity production lines. And even now, I guess people are not aware, but all the development of the vaccine for the coronavirus was done based on a digital twin technology. So it's a technology that actually everyone is entering into this space, and we are, I would say, one of the very few that left behind. I'm not going to devote now an hour about the core technology, but we have 4 pillars. Obviously, the first is all the collection of data based on IoT. The second major component is the predictive component, which is AI based. The third one is all the cybersecurity and the cloud integration. In cyber, I'm not talking only about external cyber, We're also talking about internal cyber against malware installed within all the hardware that has been delivered by various third parties. And the third one is the space of the digital twins and the virtual assistants, which will be the next generation moving into. I'll go briefly in 60 seconds on the system architecture. If we start from left to right, we're starting with a very large array of sensors and gateways that are interconnecting to these sensors, all connected via IoTs and different APIs into the existing controllers and PLCs and all the other monitoring devices supplied by the OEMs. Everything goes into let's use the term middleware, or the term that we're using is glue logic, what actually glue together all the data streams and structure them into something which is into a data stream which is transferable into the edge ML. The function of the edge machine learning is to be able to notify the chief engineer or the captain real time if there are any events that need immediate notifications and should not be processed offline and needs immediate reaction. We have the ability to run an edge ML. We have on-prem cloud, same as the edge ML, in order to be able to offer full service when the yacht is only available on low bandwidth via satellite. Cybersecurity and the thin skin of the digital twin, again, those are components that are very important for the whole picture, but we will not dive into them. Then we're connecting, and we need, I just want to make people aware of the amounts of data. If we're looking at the typical 50 to 60 meter super yacht, you're looking at about 3 to 3.5 terabyte of data per month coming out of the sensors and the monitoring system. We cannot transfer 3 to 4 terabyte of data over satellite yet. Obviously, the satellite operators will be delighted, but the cost will be a little bit high for the owner and for the management company. So therefore, we need the high bandwidth at a later stage when we're connected into the cloud via high-speed Wi-Fi or the LTE. Today we have the 5G coming into most locations around Europe. So we will be able to connect into the core AI/ML platform, into our cloud, and into the main digital twin database that will allow the deep learning into the process. As we're running out of time, we'll do it quickly. The process is actually running in data acquisition, aggregate, communicate, and analyze, where the data acquisition are all the end devices. We aggregate it through all the edge ML and all the machine learning on board. The security system protects us from any kinds of external or internal threats. And the digital twins allow us to perfect the prediction.
Can I ask, Joseph? Oh, sorry, one more slide there. Carry on.
Yeah. Predictive maintenance, just again, very quickly, predictive maintenance, what you want to do is just to avoid the reactive maintenance when an asset is failing. So you're trying to detect the beginning of the appearance of a fault at the very early stage. And if we look here, this is an example, and it's the easiest example to explain in a pump. You're getting a very specific sound, ultrasound signature at a very early stage that can be months before failure. So if we can decode this signature and to correlate the trajectory from an ultrasound indication to vibration indication into the issue of changing power consumption into noise, I can give the captain or the chief engineer an RUL, remaining usable life, i.e., you have another 4 weeks until the pump will be broken. So he knows exactly how much time he left to be able to address the issue. Final point is saving, because for everybody, the bottom line is very important. And these are numbers coming from all other industries that already implemented predictive maintenance. The saving is substantial. Normally, you can almost guarantee overall saving in the cost, in the total cost of ownership of about 15%, which is very substantial in the crafts that we're talking about, looking at delivering saving to the owner.
Can I ask you, Joseph? You recently did a bit of a tour. You've been to see a few shipyards, I believe. And how do you feel the reaction has been to the industry? Is this going to come from shipyards? Is this going to come from brave owners, the type of owners like Paul Allen was, where they're willing to take, to adopt new technologies? Where do you see the change coming from?
I visited. I was brave enough during September and October to drive between 12 shipyards with the coronavirus hanging around. I can tell you that the reaction almost in any and every shipyard was very positive. Everybody is aware that they must go and implement this technology. It must be an OEM implementation. And we're aiming to work with the largest shipyards. I did some preliminary discussions before the coronavirus, the end of last year, with few shipyards in the Netherlands. But at the moment, most of the shipyards we are working with are in Italy. And I'm hoping that by the end of December, we will announce already the alpha site and the beta site, the first two installations that will go into new super yachts that are being launched by April and by June next year.
That's very interesting. And I know, and again, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, but I know that you were also, not through Wintech, but through another part of the Win organization, if you like, developing potentially a marine center. Is that, wouldn't need to discuss that now. What I was looking at is your vision then to have a unified, say, for example, marine center and thinking super yacht, where you're able to have anticipate all of the problems you talked about in advance, bring the yacht in, and of course have everything prepared to resolve any of those issues.
This is exactly the goal. The goal is that we developed for almost three and a half years a lot of domain expertise, how to create a new asset class of a marine center. Not a marina, not a shipyard. This is not in competition with the refit shipyards, not in competition with the marinas. It's a completely different platform. We're looking now even to go into license the domain expertise and the know-how to other regions in the world. There is a lot of interest coming now from the Middle East and from other parts of Florida. So people are realizing that the facility that will have very advanced technology and unique capabilities to go and to interconnect into the superyacht directly will be able to offer a completely different level of service.
So the benefits are obvious, the cost saving and the experience. I mean, so basically, super yacht industry, it's catch up or be left behind. Now, we do need to look though, like you said earlier, the reality, the cost of transmission of data. And fortunately, we know that connectivity is also evolving. And we're going to go over to Matt Cross, one of the brains at E3. And we're going to hear a little bit from him about how this connectivity is actually evolving to deliver this data. Because obviously, if we don't receive the data, it cannot be analyzed. None of this is going to happen. So, Matt, tell us a bit more about how this connectivity, these evolutions in the technology are coming along.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jack. I think as a mindset, it's very interesting to hear Joseph talking about the proactivity, which is something we've been pushing hard into decision makers for communication on yachts. Being proactive will always pay off down the line. The demand for bandwidth over the last 5 years has been significantly increasing. I would say exponentially increasing. One of the main challenge I would say for non-experts is the amount and the variety of technologies available in the market to actually provide that bandwidth to the boat. there is such a variety of possibilities that it's actually in the interest of the yacht owner or even end users on board to leverage the various technology to provide the maximum bandwidth available. Now, if we do a quick deep dive, I think 4G, as I would say, the most affordable technology, is being pushed more and more offshore. We've seen pointing antennas as a manufacturer and Peplink as a manufacturer bringing up new antennas type, new device type to eventually bundle some of the connectivity and push even more offshore the 4G signal, which of course from a commercial point of view is highly attractive, as well as from a technical point of view, the throughput achievable are nothing to compare to anything in the SATCOM world. The SATCOM, I would say, is fighting more and more. Even the low part of the data, the typical L-band customers, we've seen Iridium and Inmarsat fighting quite a lot for the maritime market share, and they are now bringing up to 700 kilobits per second to some of their customers, which is not that bad when you keep in mind the kind of low budget related to these solutions. They are more and more, I think, pushing hard to be part of the overall GNSS certification, which will help. But this is still low bandwidth compared to what we talked before on 4G. Now, I think within the SATCOM, if we look more accurately to the KU solution and the Ka-band solution, which are the most used, I think, the market is incredibly mature. It's all for the benefit of the end users. They get more and more bandwidth for their budget, which I think will continue. One of the key points from my view is to make sure to assess a relevant comparison between all the technologies on the market, depending on where you're going to go, how often you're going to use your communication. And as an example, what Joseph said, what do you need your communication for? If it's browsing Facebook, it's a whole different ballgame than implementing any type of proactive maintenance on board. The requirements are significantly different. But again, I think the maturity of this market is all for the advantage of the end user.
Would you say sorry.
Go ahead.
Would you say it's a blend of technologies that we're going to be looking at in the future, mixing 4G, 5G with Ka, Ku? Of course, we have the dual band dishes that came along, and we've now dispelled the myths about range share and things like that people used to talk about in those markets. Do you see ultimately it needs to be a blend of all of these technologies?
Absolutely. And I think ultimately it has to go beyond the modem. The IT developed on board of this yacht has to be a combination of product and services between what's been done on an NT point of view and a SATCOM point of view. A fantastic connectivity with a cerebral network on board could give the impression that the connectivity is wrong. So they have to go together. It's what we've been pushing to the market as a hybrid concept, which is basically leveraging the best technology depending on where you are, how often you need that, and what's your budget.
So when you say where you are, one of the things that I know is you're highly dependent on infrastructure on land. So to provide a unified experience for a yacht. So for example, if I go to Antigua, my understanding, the probability of them upgrading the infrastructure that's required for 5G on land might be a more distant prospect, than in the UK and in Europe. So is there going to be issues around a unified experience as you move around the world, or will you simply be switching technologies?
I think the switch is becoming more and more reality. Maintaining an IP session through different latency, for example, switching from 4G to satellite connectivity is becoming a reality. Now, the key point, I think, is that, as you said, 4G and whatever 5G will be available, depending on the range offshore, will always be considered as the best effort. And most of the yacht knows that, well, the bay around Monaco, around the Grand Prix, you're not going to get a huge amount of 4G connectivity. So SATCOM as solution and as a market, I think will always be there, will always be on the background. And the evolution in that sector with the arrival of a potentially new product coming from these new orbits will benefit the customer. we just have to set realistic expectations. I think 2.5, 3 years is a realistic timeline, nothing before that.